Well, the horses that we raise ourselves are predominantly thoroughbred blood. We're using mares and geldings. We have 36 constables, and they have varying degrees of expertise and ability in the riding.
Each year, 14 new members come on the ride, and 14 members that have been on the ride for 3 years are transferred back to the field.
They're all competent policemen and women before they come into the ride, and they have a lot of responsibility in the different areas that they've come from. And now all of a sudden they're back into a quasi-depot or academy regime where they're being told how to do everything. The only challenge that truly is left to them is to do the absolute best ride that they can. They really don't know what to expect, and it's not until you get on the road and you start living the life before you start to realize what the musical ride is really all about.
It's very difficult for somebody who's been out in the field to come to the musical ride and all of a sudden be told that you will be doing this today and tomorrow and the next day and the next month and the next 3 months. But that's the type of work that this is. I used to work 12-hour shifts. I'd come in at 7 o'clock in the morning and I would have absolutely no idea what I could be doing that day for the next 12 hours. Whereas here, it's a repetition all the time of the same thing.
We do a lot of days where we might do 2 shows in a day and a lot of traveling. Very few days off, I guess, on tour is something that was a surprise to me.
You get to see the country where you don't get to see as much as you really want to because you're busy working all the time.
And it's a lot of work, a lot of physical work. I didn't expect that much of physical work.
Hours of work in continuous number of hours. Sometimes that's a little bit unnerving, but you get used to it after a while.
Well, we do have a different approach to overtime on the ride, and it is as a matter of necessity tied with scheduling. Some days we'll put in a 4-hour day, and other days it might be 14-hour days. And it's essentially an extended 160 concept. But I think it's important simply that those candidates coming onto the ride realize that there is a different formula utilized for scheduling and for overtime.
On average, we do a show every other day. We travel one day and then do a show the next day. We have 4 transports, and once we get to a new location, they have to be completely cleaned out. It gets a little monotonous at times, but you know exactly what you have to do, and you do it, and it runs very well. Everyone has their own jobs that they have to do. It's like simple things like making sure that the buckets are set up and that there's water in the buckets when the horses come in. And there's people assigned to that. People assigned to making sure that the horses are put beside horses that they get along with, because they like to fight amongst themselves, you know. Everything that's in here as far as the horses and the blue boxes and whatnot, that's all got to be moved by us.
What we got here? Exeter. Second on the left, class center.
It's pretty well organized, and everybody does their job, and 99.9% of the time it goes without any problems, and the show goes on.
I think Canada's greatest public relations arm is the musical ride. There is nothing like it anywhere in the world.
Joining the musical ride's always been a dream of mine ever since I joined the force. I rode horses as a young girl, and I've always wanted to do this.
They're on their way right now. They'll be here in just a few seconds.
My horse's name is Tops. She's a 14-year-old mare. Just a great horse to ride. We're getting very close.
by the RCMP is for ceremonial purposes, including these tours by the musical ride.
Horse and rider become so close that it's almost a necessity for us to change them after a year in order to increase their abilities and as well so they don't become pets to them.
The riders performing today are all regular members of the RCMP who have volunteered for this duty for a period of 3 years, following which they will return to a variety of police duties across Canada.
Of course, you have to like horses, and you have to be prepared to give a 3 or 4 year commitment.
You know, it's not just coming here and riding a horse, waving to the crowds. It's a lot of hard labor. It's not mental work, it's all physical work. And it's a lot of time away from the job that you're trained to do.
But also, I think time in the musical ride can't help but to enhance your public relation and communication skills.
I'd say there's a lot more positive than negative to the job. It's just such a nice break from detachment policing, dealing with all the positive elements of society instead of the negative. People who are happy to see the Mounties, who like the Mounties.
In your job as a policeman, you know, it can be so negative. I was continually chasing people, always chasing people. Nobody wanted to see the police, but now it's totally different. Like, you get places like this, people just flock to see you. They just want your autograph and everything else like that, you know.
People are happy to come and see you, happy to come and talk to you, find out about the horse, what you do. Yeah, we are all the time. Did you like the show?
Yeah, they want to know how the horses are named, where we breed them, what type of horses they are. A lot of pretty obvious questions, actually. Are all your horses black? How old are the horses? A few funny questions, you know, if you fell off your horse, would it continue doing the ride without you? If you turned the horses out in a big pasture, played the music, would they all do the ride by themselves? It's hard to keep a straight face sometimes with some of the questions you get.
I always hate it when they ask you where you're going, and I have to ask, where am I?
I never thought I could answer one question so many times to so many people. It can be the first time that they ask it, but it could be the 1,000th time that I have answered that question. But you have to make it sound like it's the first time you've ever answered this question, and that they are something special to you. So sometimes it's hard to keep that perspective. Your first year is always very exciting because everything is new and there's not a whole lot new and wonderful your second and your third year. The only thing that changes is the places that you go to and the people that you meet. I personally try to keep that in the forefront of my mind, those positive things, like always meeting the people, always doing that PR, that public relations. That's very, very important, and we have to remember that. Let's face it, when we pull into anywhere, they know who we are. We have these great big huge 4 18-wheelers. So we always have to be putting our best foot forward. When I step off of here, we have to be very positive and just think that I just woke up and I'm happy to meet the day, even though I've just traveled for 14 hours in the back of a stinking horse truck.
What are we eating? Feed me!
Food. Lots of it. It's everywhere you look. And most of the time it's McDonald's.
You get tired of living out of a suitcase, and I'm getting tired of choosing things off menus all the time. And you feel like you go into a restaurant, you just ask the waitress, you know, pick something for me and I'll eat it. Because 3 meals a day or 4 meals a day, whatever you're eating, and it's, you know, the same thing. I mean, how many breakfasts can you order? There's only so many ways to do eggs and pancakes, but that's a minor thing. Small thing in a big ship.
The important things are probably reasonably priced food, because we're living on expenses. Decent hotel. Hotel to hotel varies. You know, we've been in some really nice places, 5-star hotels, and the beds are great. And we've been in some places that I would put my dog up in.
Members coming onto the musical ride can expect that they will be required to accept double accommodation. That in part is due to availability of accommodation in the smaller communities. Sometimes they simply don't have 45 rooms that would be available to us. Plus, of course, the cost that is entailed in occupying that many rooms.
As far as general traveling, you're always clustered together, or you're on the bus for 8-10 hours at a time. That gets hard.
For myself, being apart from my family makes it a little bit tougher to be on the road. So I would say that's definitely the hardest thing about the traveling.
It was something that I wanted initially, and I thought, well, okay, time away from home, I can put up with it. But when you're actually there and away from home for quite a long time, it's hard on you.
I think it's harder on the wives and the family at home because they have to put up with the daily grind of paying the bills and looking after the households and mowing the lawns and stuff. So
I would suggest any member coming in on a basic course examine their family position. It's difficult being on the road away from your family if you're married. You're spending 3 years of that 90 days of each year you're going to be away from your family. Address that with your wives, with your kids, or with your husband, whichever the case may be. Discuss it very, very bluntly because it's a difficult grind.
Luna, you got the stables ready? Yeah. Everybody else give her a hand, please. Make sure it's safe, ready to go. Thank you very much.
Our average tour is 90 days. As you can well appreciate, a 3-month tour requires that the people that go on tour do get along well together. And so it's pretty well a big team effort, and everything has to be geared toward the team. Therefore, it's very important to have somebody that can get along well in a group.
everybody, a lot of people that get along really well, and there's a lot of good friends and friendships made when you work so close together. I mean, you have to be at the hotel with them, you have to be on the bus with them, so you better try to get along, and there's a lot of practical jokes, and there's a lot of happy people around with a lot of good personalities, and everybody gets along good, and I think that's one of the criteria to be on the ride. I mean, even when I was in detachment, I mean, we played practical jokes on each other, and it certainly lightens the occasion.
I think the practical joking is just a way to keep everybody loose. And because you're never really away from the job. If you're in a town with not much to do, you have a lot of downtime that you have to find to amuse yourself. And a lot of times that entails just sitting in a hotel room watching television. So it all really depends on the site. You know, you go into a small town of 1,000 people that doesn't have the facilities. You got to make do with whatever is there, and sometimes that's nothing. If you're in a nice town with lots to do, you try to take in the sights, you go fishing, things of that nature. So hopefully if you're in a nice setting, you've got lots to do, and if you're not, you tough it out.
Because we have so many horses and so much in the way of equipment, it is necessary to safeguard both the materials and the animal, and as such we always keep 2 people on stable guard 24 hours of the day.
Well, when we stable guard, we come in and we take care of feeding the horses, make sure we muck them out. They get hay on a regular basis, oats, and fill up the water buckets, as well as keeping the general area pretty clean so that when the public goes through, it's half decent. Right now we're doing it about once every week. Everybody gets a turn at it, and it's part of your general duties.
A lot of people think that it's just those guys, it's just a big party. They don't really work. They just have fun and just have fun to ride the horses. So they don't know what it is to be on the ride. They don't know how the work is involved. They don't know how regimental it is. It's very 10 minutes for this, 10 minutes for that. You have to make sure that your horse is clean, your tack is clean, and it's not clean, you'll know it. And your boot has to be shined all the time, and it's very strict.
It's a big adjustment. I tell anybody that it is, because it is basically a paramilitary drill situation.
We have an image to project to the public, and we must maintain that image, which includes the shorter haircuts, the very clean kit, polished leather, etc.
You know, the ride becomes a little routine at times and that, but it's a wonderful experience. I think anyone who has the aspirations to join should give it a try.
If you're going to be an RCMP of 20 years or 25, 30 years, just to look back and say 3 years were spent touring the country, or to have done that on horseback, it's a unique aspect of policing, and for me it's certainly worthwhile.
It's a wonderful job and a nice break from the regular police work.
The RCMP and the musical ride mean to the people of the country. I mean, it's part of our heritage, and I think it's very important to the Canadian people. It's also a unique opportunity, and one that if you decide that it's something that you want to do, that maybe you don't want to pass it up.
I think if any members are considering coming to the ride, they should come for one reason and one reason alone, and that is because the musical ride is really what they want to do.